The story I bring you today is a story of my family. It is a story that has been with us for a long time. The truth is that there are family stories that are treasured as much as the most precious of jewels. This story has been jealously guarded and passed down from generation to generation. Even when my ancestors emigrated to America fleeing the harsh life of the Galician countryside, they brought this story with them. This story was told to me by my grandfather when it was my time to become the guardian and transmitter of this story that happened to my great-great-grandfather's father. His name was Pastor. And when he was 5 years old, he came face to face with the mystery. They say that Pastor was a very restless child. He was always playing with his brothers. Pastor and the other boys of the neighborhood of the community were always playing, but with whom he really liked to spend time with his brothers. His brothers loved him and protected him a lot. The brothers took him to play in the forest, to play in the river, and whenever the parents assigned him any task, they would do it for him. Pastor always liked to go with his mother to buy groceries at the bodega. In rural Spain 100 years ago, there were not the comforts that there are now to go to the store. They often had to walk for hours or had to go on horseback or donkey. So when the people from the farmhouses went down to the village, they bought as many provisions as possible to spend a couple of weeks without having to go buy more. Pastor always wanted to go to town because he was a good friend of the owner of the bodega, Don Paco, who whenever he saw Pastor gave him a few pieces of ham, a piece of cheese that he liked so much, and from time to time, some candy. So Pastor, whenever someone went to town, he insisted on accompanying him. The journey through the forest took 1 hour or an hour and a half, but if they were walking along the main road it took almost 3 hours. But Pastor didn't just go to town with his mom. Whenever a neighbor went, he was willing to accompany the neighbor, offering his company and his strength to help them carry the provisions. And most of the time the neighbors also invited him, so they spent a pleasant time with it. That area was like a big family. They had their own little town. There were 6 houses that were close to each other on that mountain. So it was a small community but very close-knit. One cold afternoon in November, Mom was getting ready to go down to town to get some things when Pastor ran into the house and said, "Where are you going, Mom? Are you going to Don Paco's store?" "Yes, but you can't come with me. Today I go and return quickly before dark." "Mom, you can't go alone," Pastor said. "Don Ramon says that the wolves are back and killed the sheep." "Don't worry, Pastor, I go and return fast." "No, Mom, don't go alone." At that moment 2 of Pastor's brothers entered and saw the boy insisting. "Mom, take him with you to accompany you. So if the wolf comes, it eats him and you can run." Pastor took a small knife from his pocket and looking at his brothers, angrily told them, "If the wolf comes, I will tear off his head." Laughing, the brothers told him, "You see, Mom, Pastor will protect you." "Okay, but hurry, Pastor, I want to go and return before the night comes." With a jump the boy stood at the main door of the house. "Come on, Mom." They soon arrived at Don Paco's store and bought the provisions. Pastor returned home happy to see his friend Don Paco, who had given him some sweets. Pastor was telling his mother that he was going to share those candies with the brothers because thanks to them he had been able to go to the store. It was already beginning to get dark and a thick fog was beginning to spread through the woods. "Hurry, son, it begins to get dark." Pastor kept talking how his friend Paco was good and was his friend, and that when he grew up he also wanted to have a store in the village. Suddenly all the noises of the mountain fell silent. Nothing could be heard. The mother said, "Silence, son," and grabbed him by the arm, bringing him closer to her. Suddenly there was the sound of a bell. Then Pastor asked the mother, "What is that?" The mother replied, "I am sure it is a lost sheep." "No, Mom, sheep cowbells don't sound like that." Of course she knew that, but she didn't want to scare him. The mother grabbed a stick and pulled Pastor out of the path they were walking and began to make a circle around Pastor on the side of the road. Stay inside the circle and don't go out. Automatically, the mother searched through the things they bought and took a packet of salt and sprinkled it inside the circle. Pastor saw how some hooded men with lights came up the road. Look, Mom, it's the monks. They're making a procession. Pastor was very happy because he loved the pilgrimages and the processions. Run, Mom, I am sure they bring the Virgin. Shut up, Pastor, and don't look, said the mom, pressing him against her body. Take out the rosary, son, and let us pray quietly so God will protect us. As the procession approached, the bell was louder and the fear increased. The mother covered Pastor's eyes and turned her back to the entourage. Pastor tried to see out of the corner of his eye while the mother prayed fervently. Pastor managed to see that in front of the procession was a child with a cauldron. And a little further back, flanked by the hooded figures, was Santiago, one of his neighbors. Mom, that's Santiago who goes with the monks. Don't look, son, and shut up. No, Mom, if they hear you they will take you. When Pastor heard that they could take him away, he was frightened and clung tightly to his mother's skirt. Pastor fell into a state like a deep sleep, and when he regained consciousness he was already in his mother's arms. Almost getting home. Mom, what happened? Nothing, you were tired and fell asleep. And where are the priests? There was nothing, there were no priests. Yes, Mom, do you remember that we saw the priests and Don Santiago? No, you dreamed that, and don't talk about that. That was just a dream. You see, that's why I didn't want to bring you, because I had to carry you all the way. No, Mom, Pastor said, with his eyes wide as two plates. I walked until I saw the monks. You didn't see anyone, and if you keep saying that, I won't bring to see Don Paco again, and I will tell your dad that I brought you in my arms as if you were a baby the whole trip. No, Mom, it's true, I'm sure I fell asleep. They arrived at the house without any other eventuality. It was already night, so Mom hurried to finish dinner. The father and the other boys were already coming from the field. Go and wash to eat, Mom said. The father entered the room with the mother, and they could hear that they were talking, but they could not clearly distinguish it. But by the tone of the mother she was frightened. The two left the room. The father looked different, quieter than usual. They sat down at the table, and immediately the boys started, Mom, this has no salt. Then Pastor jumped. Of course, Mom threw it in the circle when we saw the monks. Pastor, eat you food before it gets cold, and if you don't eat you won't grow like your brothers. The mother looked at Pastor as if reproaching him for breaking the secret. The brothers knew perfectly well that there are two ways, at least the best known, to protect yourself from the Santa Compaña or Holly Company, one of the oldest legends of those parts. One is looking for shelter in a pedo de animus, and the other is to make a circle in the earth and put salt around it. The Holy Company is not looked at, or takes you, it takes you to be part of its entourage. According to the good people of those towns, the entourage is led by a living person. But this living human is not aware of what is happening. The living that leads the entourage joins it as soon as it falls asleep, and as if he was sleepwalking, walks leading the other souls, and before dawn returns to bed. The only way the living human can free themselves from the curse is by passing it on to another living person who sees him leading the Santa Compaña. The boys feared that Pastor had seen the guide and that he had passed the curse on him. So that night they slept with him to make sure nothing would happen. At midnight Pastor woke up. He wanted to go to the bathroom. The bathroom was outside the house, so the brothers accompanied him. When they were on their way to the bathroom, Pastor said, Look, the monks came with Santiago. What do you say, Pastor? The house is dark and there is no one there. Suddenly the ringing of the bells was heard and the characteristic smell of burning wax was present. Look, the monks are there, shut up and run. Let's enter the house. But I want to pee, no peeing now, pee in a bottle, run. And they went into the house and woke up the other brother. The bell began to be heard closer. The two older brothers lit a candle to the Virgin and began to pray. What is the Santa Compaña? What is out there? What is that? A group of spirits who come to look for those who are going to die. When Pastor heard this, he ran out like a shot and went to the parents' room. Mom, there is La Santa Compaña, the dead people that come to take people away. Who told you that, Pastor? My brothers, I saw them outside Santiago's house. Do not worry, don't listen to your brothers, let's go to sleep, sleep here with me. At 4 o'clock in the morning, the screams of terror of the wife of Santiago asking for help woke up all the neighbors. Pastor fell standing at the door. Mom, Dad, the neighbor is calling for help. Pastor's parents were already getting up because they hadn't fallen asleep. Go back to bed, son, stay here with your brothers. Let's see what's happening. The brothers came and slept with Pastor, who did not sleep the rest of the night waiting for dawn. With the first rays of sun, Pastor was already dressed and walking towards the house of Santiago. There were his parents preparing the funeral of Santiago. Santiago was just as he had seen him in the procession. After that day they never went down to the village again through the woods, and never at night. They always went along the main road where there was a Pito de Animus. Once again, thank you for listening to this story. I hope you liked it. If you did, leave us a like and remember to activate the bell so that you receive notifications every time we publish new content.